June 15th, 1959. 1:21 a.m. The sound of shoes scraping across a rooftop echoed faintly against the Harlem night. The man running believed height made him safe. He believed distance would save him. He believed that if he could just get to the edge, he could disappear into darkness the same way lies disappear when no one asks questions. The city lights below shimmered like scattered coins, and for a brief moment he truly thought he could escape. He truly thought he could fly. His name was Leon Carter, and for 3 years he had been one of Bumpy Johnson's most trusted runners. He knew every alley, every rooftop shortcut, every quiet stairwell that people used when they did not want their business seen. He had handled money, messages, and favors. He had shaken hands in Bumpy's name and had eaten meals at Bumpy's table. He smiled often. He listened carefully. He also lied. The betrayal did not come all at once. It came in small pieces the way most betrayals do. A little money missing from a collection here. A story that did not match there. A shift in behavior that most people would have ignored if they did not understand human nature the way Bumpy Johnson did. Leon thought he was smarter than the system he worked inside. He thought the Italian mob would pay better and protect him longer. He thought information was his ticket out. He was wrong. The rooftop chase was not an accident. It was the end of something that had been unfolding for weeks. Leon had chosen to sell information that did not belong to him. He thought leaking routes, names, and meeting places would make him valuable to people who needed leverage over Harlem. He thought once he proved his usefulness, he would no longer need Bumpy Johnson. In his mind, he was already moving on. Bumpy knew before Leon ever suspected. The call that had exposed him came from someone no one noticed. A quiet bartender who never spoke unless spoken to. He had overheard Leon having a conversation he should never have been having. He recognized a name. He recognized danger. Hours later, he stood in front of Bumpy, hat in hand, explaining slowly, carefully, exactly what he had heard. Bumpy said very little. He simply nodded, paid the man, and sat thinking for a long time. Leon believed he was invisible. Bumpy believed no one was. By the night of June 15th, the decision had been made. Not out of anger, not out of ego, out of necessity. Betrayal spreads when it is allowed to survive. Bumpy did not like lessons that required force, but he understood that sometimes fear traveled faster than words. Leon was summoned under the pretense of a routine errand. He had done it dozens of times before. He arrived with his usual half-smile, unaware that every step he took was being measured. When the truth revealed itself, Leon's instinct was not to speak. It was to run. He sprinted up the stairwell of a 5-story building, then climbed again to the rooftop, lungs burning, heart pounding, convinced that height created safety. He imagined himself untouchable above the noise of the streets. Wind pushed gently across the roof. He thought he heard freedom in it. Bumpy Johnson did not chase him. He stepped onto the rooftop slowly, calmly, with the measured stride of a man who had already decided how the night would end. He kept his voice low, almost conversational, as he spoke Leon's name. The sound froze Leon more effectively than any weapon. The gap between them was not large, but it felt infinite. Bumpy did not rush, he did not shout, he did not threaten. He simply looked at the man who had once called him friend. What most people never understood about Bumpy Johnson was that his anger was rarely loud. When he felt betrayed, his silence carried the weight. Leon explained quickly, desperately, the way men explain when every excuse feels thin. He spoke of needing money. He spoke of fear. He spoke of opportunities that he believed were too good to refuse. In his voice, there was shame, but there was also something else. Entitlement. He still believed he could negotiate. Bumpy listened. He waited. And when Leon attempted to edge closer to the rooftop's ledge, still convinced that distance equaled freedom, Bumpy spoke a sentence so calm it did not sound like punishment, it sounded like truth. Leon stopped moving. The wind seemed to still. Harlem below continued to breathe, unaware that a man on a rooftop was discovering that choices do not dissolve when you step away from the table. People often say that fear is loud. On that rooftop, fear was quiet. To understand what happened next, and how the night ended with Leon realizing he had run out of options long before he ever reached the edge, you need to understand who Bumpy Johnson was in 1959 and why betrayal never surprised him. He had spent his entire life watching men convince themselves that they were smarter than the world that shaped them. He had seen dreamers, schemers, thieves, and visionaries. He had learned that the most dangerous kind of liar was the one who believed his own stories. Leon Carter believed he was different. He believed betrayal made him free. Bumpy understood that it only made him predictable. What happened on that rooftop did not begin with anger. It began with clarity. Bumpy Johnson had long ago learned that men like Leon never wake up one morning and decide to betray. They convince themselves step by step that each choice is harmless. First, they justify. Then, they rationalize. Eventually, they believe the lie so deeply that they no longer see themselves as traitors. They see themselves as survivors. Leon stood near the rooftop's edge, breathing hard, eyes darting for escape routes that did not exist. His mind still worked the way all frightened minds work, searching for distance, stairs, ladders, anything that could carry him away from consequence. He spoke quickly, promising repayment, promising loyalty, promising to fix what he had broken. Every promise arrived too late. Bumpy did not interrupt. He let Leon talk, not because he believed him, but because he wanted Leon to hear himself. Words often reveal truth when fear strips away pride. The more Leon spoke, the more obvious his self-deception became. He had convinced himself that betrayal was temporary, that he could sell information like it was borrowed and then return it once he felt safe again. Bumpy finally shook his head slowly. He explained quietly, "The trust is not a debt a man can repay on his own schedule. Once broken, it does not return because someone decides they want it back. Trust is held together by the people who depend on it, and once they stop believing, no apology rebuilds the bridge." Leon looked at the ground, and for the first time, his shoulders fell. He understood. The truth did not frighten him. The truth humbled him. Growing up in Harlem, Bumpy had watched neighborhoods survive on fragile agreements. Shopkeepers trusted runners, runners trusted bosses, families trusted that whatever happened in the streets, someone was looking out for them. Leon had not merely stolen money. He had endangered that balance. Outsiders, smelling opportunity, had leaned closer. If one man inside could be bought, maybe more could be. That kind of thinking brought chaos. Bumpy could not allow chaos. He stepped closer, still calm, still measured, closing the distance one quiet stride at a time. Leon backed away slowly, not toward escape now, but out of instinct. His fear no longer felt like strength, it felt like gravity, pulling him steadily toward reality. He understood that this rooftop was not a battleground, it was a classroom, and the lesson would be remembered by more than just him. Men talk in neighborhoods, they talk in barbershops and corner stores and around kitchen tables. Stories travel farther than fists. Whatever happened to Leon would not be retold as violence, it would be retold as consequence, and consequence reaches ears that violence misses. Bumpy did not threaten him, he did not shout. He told Leon exactly what had happened. He told him how the bartender recognized his voice. He told him how the message was traced. He told him who he had met with and when. He told him the Italians never trusted him, not even for a moment. To them, Leon was nothing more than an errand, a disposable messenger. The realization landed harder than fear. Leon had believed betrayal gave him wings. Now he understood it had turned him into a man with no place to stand. Too dangerous for one side, no longer trusted by the other. Suspended between worlds where neither offered shelter, he was not flying, he was falling the entire time. Bumpy stopped only a few feet away. The city stretched beneath them, alive and unaware. A siren wailed in the distance, a train rumbled across steel. Somewhere below, laughter drifted from an open window. Life continued. It always did. Bumpy told Leon he would not die that night. The words broke the tension in a way Leon had not expected. For a brief second, relief washed through him like warmth. Then, Bumpy told him the rest. He would leave Harlem before sunrise. He would never return. He would never speak Bumpy's name, nor any name tied to Harlem's business. If he did, the next conversation would not be words. The city was wide. He could find work. He could disappear, but not here. Not ever again. Exile is quieter than death, but it lives longer. Leon nodded, tears gathering without sound. The man who once believed he could outrun consequence now struggled just to remain upright. He apologized again, though this time not as a negotiation, but as acknowledgement. He had taken something he could not give back. He had gambled with people who never considered him equal. He had misunderstood power. Bumpy turned away first. That small gesture contained more authority than any punishment that might have followed. The conversation was over. The decision was final. Leon was no longer a part of Harlem's story. He was a name that would slowly slip from memory, kept alive only when the story served as a warning. They descended the stairs together, no longer as partners, not even as enemies, but as two men whose paths had crossed and then separated permanently. Outside, the night air felt different, colder, cleaner. Leon walked until the city swallowed him. By the time the sun rose, he was gone. In the days that followed, the truth traveled quietly. No bodies appeared in alleys, no blood-stained sidewalks, but every man who operated within Bumpy Johnson's orbit heard what had happened. They heard that Leon had betrayed. They heard that he had run. They heard that Bumpy had found him and let him live, but removed him completely from Harlem. The lesson landed harder than violence could have. Betrayal does not always end with death. Sometimes it ends with absence, with doors that no longer open, with faces that no longer recognize you, with a lifetime spent knowing that a single decision rewrote every possibility that once existed. The Italians heard as well. They learned that their attempts to buy loyalty inside Harlem created no leverage. The man they purchased gained them nothing. The man they lost cost them influence. They understood that Bumpy Johnson would not always rely on force. Sometimes he would use something far more dangerous: memory. Memory travels. Memory reminds people where lines exist. Years later, when men spoke quietly about the rooftop, few remembered the exact date. Few remembered the time. But they remembered the idea. A man thought he could outthink, outrun, and outclimb consequence. He believed he could fly. Instead, he discovered gravity in its truest form. Bumpy Johnson never saw himself as a hero. He saw himself as a man responsible for preventing disorder. He did not enjoy moments like that rooftop. He understood them as necessary. Power, he knew, was not proven by how many people fell. It was proven by how many people learned. Leon Carter vanished from Harlem's streets. Some said he moved south. Others believed he drifted west. Wherever he went, he carried the same truth on his back. Once you betray a place that trusted you, the world becomes wider, but lonelier. You become a man passing through cities, never belonging, never home. You learn that falling is not always sudden. Sometimes it is slow, stretched across years, and Harlem remembered. Because stories like that do not fade. They settle into the rhythm of a neighborhood, retold as caution more than legend. They remind people that the edge they think will save them often reveals how little ground they truly have. Bumpy returned to his work as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Meetings resumed, deals continued. The streets stayed quieter than outsiders expected. He did not brag. He did not mention Leon's name again. In Bumpy's world, the most powerful lessons did not need to be repeated aloud. The betrayer thought he could fly. Bumpy Johnson reminded him that every man answers to gravity. And Harlem moved forward.